What's good, everybody out there on YouTube? This is your man Shadicstick dropping some hot faraga on this mic, and you're watching MobShadic100, the online show that opens your psyche. But this episode of MobShadic100 is actually inspired by Alpha X Games' two-part retrospective on Dragon Ball Z Budokai, so please check that out after you're done with this video. But Dragon Ball Z Budokai is easily one of the first fighting games I ever played, and easily one of the most influential video games in my life. I don't think I'd be as big of a fan of fighting games or even Dragon Ball Z if it weren't for this game. And with there being a lack of good anime games coming out recently, I wanted to talk about what was ultimately, truly the first great anime game. So let's hop into it. Let's talk about Dragon Ball Z Budokai. Now, I need to preface this video with this. Before Dragon Ball Z Budokai, there were virtually no good anime games. Yes, there was JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Heritage for the Future and some other arcade titles, but nothing really on the console side that solidified anime games in the AAA console gaming space. And I'm not gonna act like Budokai was received as some godsend at the time, because it merely wasn't. Critics weren't really rocking with the game like that. It's just the first time I think that anime fans got something that they liked and that did justice to the anime that they were adapting. Because when you look at the gameplay, at best it's a simple, decent fighting game. Nothing too complex, but easily a fun little romp to play through if you're a fan of the series. Combos are relatively easy to execute despite controls being a little bit clunky. There isn't much in the way of balance due to the transformation system. Some mechanics like charging never get used due to them not allowing you to charge up specifically the opponent, or just generally breaking the pace of gameplay. Characters do a multitude of attacks from the show, and the game goes really out of its way to make these moves feel strong and have the same impact as they did in the show. While the game does have transformation and it's pretty cool, especially for the time, they don't last very long and they're pretty hard to execute depending on what character you are. Now, what do I mean by this? Now, the transformations are actually linked to your ki gauge, and the higher the transformation, the faster your ki runs out, and the more ki you need to get to that transformation. And you also get knocked out of transformations if you don't have enough ki, and you get knocked to the next transformation back. This is in the case that you take damage without enough ki bars. But on top of them not being able to be used a lot, or at least the highest level of transformations, they are also simultaneously broken, because with every transformation you get about a 10% damage boost over the last, making characters like Frieza, Cell, and especially Goku the best in the game by default. With them having 3 or more transformations, meaning they get at least like a 40-50% damage boost by the time you're at the last transformation, like Perfect Cell full max power or whatever, or Frieza 100% max power, or Super Saiyan, because they add every level of Kaioken in between that and Super Saiyan. But while it is broken, it's still fun, and that's, I think, the takeaway. While Dragon Ball Z Budokai is a fun game, it's nothing special when it comes to gameplay. So what actually sets it apart? I have the answer, and it's presentation. No, I think the first thing you need to do in making a licensed game is to please the fans and not the critics. The critics, while they do sell a product in general, when it comes to licensed products, especially anime games as it seems, you've already got people sold on the license. So now you just need to make a compelling experience after that. And the way a lot of these games do it is through presentation. It's why CC2 keeps getting gigs, because they make pretty looking games. Look at Naruto Storm. Look at Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Look at Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles. All of those games look really good, despite their varying quality. Now, back in the day, graphics aren't necessarily what sold games, because especially in the early 6th generation, they were pretty rudimentary still. So the first way they actually pleased fans with Dragon Ball Z Budokai, especially in the West, specifically North America, was by using the Funimation dubcast for all the characters.
So come back for more, have you? Some people just never learn, do they?
This ends here, Frieza! In the name of all the Saiyans you've killed, and for all the people of Namek, Your time has finally come. I'm going to finish you.
While having all the, Japanese cast voice all the characters in other regions. At the time, this wasn't really a given. Many games before this, specifically licensed games, and even afterwards, can't or don't reprise the roles of all of their voice actors, whether it be money or the voice actors not deeming games something that's important enough for them to come back to reprise their role for. I mean, even the juggernaut that was SpongeBob at the time couldn't get Mr. Krabs to reprise his role for Battle for Bikini Bottom. So I think this was a monolithic feat at the time for all of the voice actors to reprise their roles for Dragon Ball Z Budokai, especially since many games like a Budokai would take the route of reusing audio from the show or various movies. And in this case, they recorded brand new lines just for this game, which I think is really dope. It's kind of a standard for anime games now, but back then, it was unheard of, and I really do appreciate that. Now, the second way they pleased fans were through cutscenes. These cutscenes were actually astronomical for the time. First of all, every single segment of the story was segmented like an episode of Dragon Ball Z. So you got the title card, you got the opening. Every time a new saga started in game, you got a new opening like it was the anime, or a new variation upon the same opening like it was the anime. And even the start screen changed. And while that would become a staple of the 6th generation Dragon Ball Z games, it's still amazing when you look back on it that they put that much effort into making the game feel like the show. On top of that, the cadence of the animations and the voice acting in the cutscenes made it really feel like the show, with the dynamic angles and just overall superb animation, at least at the time, for these 3D models that were trying to replicate ultimately 2D animation. I think this is actually fantastic, especially when you account for the GameCube version's cel-shaded graphics, which looked a lot closer to the anime than the PlayStation 2 versions, or even the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 release, which decided to use the original dingy PS2 models. And I mean, these cutscenes were genuinely phenomenal. There are only 2 times since then, with the myriad of over 20 or so Dragon Ball games afterwards, there are only 2 times, 2 single games. I said 2 single games, that's kind of an oxymoron. But there are only 2 games that have matched, I guess, the same level of intensity as Budokai 1's Super Saiyan transformation scene. This is easily the most iconic moment in all of anime, and Dragon Ball Z Budokai back in 2002 did it justice. And not many games have done it justice, or at least the same amount of justice, since then. And I think that's nominal.
You did it, Dad!
That was awesome, Goku! No. It's... Frieza!
You're dead. But I want to start with a little ball.
Krillin! No! Not him, Frieza! Goku! The legendary Super Saiyan. Enough! I can't allow you to do this anymore! And now, Frieza, you are going to pay! Gohan, get Piccolo and take him somewhere safe. Go on, son. I'll take care of this monster once and for all. Now get going!
I see now. I understand, Dad. You turn into a Super Saiyan.
He's taken innocent lives again and again. My best friend, Krillin. It's over, Frieza!
But the last thing that I think really ties this all together is the music and sound design. Now, this is some of the greatest music I've heard for an anime game, and only a few come this close. Now, there is one sad thing I gotta say about it. It's all stolen. But it's one of those situations where I just don't care. It adds that much to the experience. Many of the riffs come for things like Black Sabbath's Iron Man and other rock and metal tunes. But again, I don't care. It's just really good. And it was very reminiscent of the anime soundtrack at the time. Ultimately, these three pillars of presentation combined with relatively fast action combat makes you feel like the characters in the show. Oh my god, I did the thing. They make you feel like Goku. They make you feel like Gohan. They make you feel like Piccolo or Vegeta. Oh god, I had to get it out of my system. Hopefully I never make that mistake again. But overall, it makes it feel like the game is less of a game and more like an interactive episode of Dragon Ball Z. And I think that's all anyone could ask for in the best way possible. Dimps understood at the time that they needed this, and they crafted an experience that fans of the series would appreciate, not then, but also now in the future. It's not perfect. There are the classic difficulty spikes with input reading that was common of older fighting games at the time, and instead of giving you the whole story all at once, it gives you a reduced version that you have to go back and piecemeal after you beat the main story. It's just kind of bad in that regard, because they were ultimately trying to artificially inflate playtime and value when they could have easily added all the missing cutscenes and fights back to make the story a bit more cohesive. There's also not a ton to do outside of the World Tournament mode and story mode, but all of this stuff at the time was relatively polished, so a lot of people gave it a pass. Something that I couldn't say about many modern anime fighting games, or just anime games in general. I think this is ultimately what we're missing from a lot of modern Dragon Ball games and just anime games in general. That unique, one-of-a-kind polished experience that we got with Budokai. Now every time an anime game comes out, it's some type of fighting game or uses the arena fighter formula shtick to guarantee sales because Budokai set that precedent so long ago. They think people bought Budokai because it was a fighting game rather than because it was a good game. And it's why I'm glad games like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot exists or Dragon Ball The Breakers exist. Because we need games to try to break the mold again, like Budokai did way back in 2002. We need a new, not only anime game experience, but a new Dragon Ball game experience. And hopefully we get that soon. Thank you guys for watching. It took a lot to make this video because I screwed up the Sonic Adventure DX video so bad, or Sonic Adventure video so bad, and that video is not coming out for a while. I'ma just tell you like this, I re-recorded it too many times. I lost the gameplay too many times for me to want to go back and make that video or at least finish it. I was working on it hard, I had entire sections of the video done, and then I foolishly deleted a ton of gameplay captures from my computer because it was taking a lot of space, and I just feel horrible for losing that gameplay. So I'm sorry about that. But don't worry, there are more MobShadic100s to come. The next one, hopefully a Kingdom Hearts one, and the one after that, possibly a Sonic one. And even a Mirror's Edge episode in the works, so keep a lookout. But this has been your man Shadicstick. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Hit the join button, it helps your boy out. If you really want to see more content like this, hit the join button. It signals to me that this is the content that people are really coming around for, or sticking around for. This has been your man Shadicstick. Again, Hafaraga turns to Koblazaga. Chill out some of my other videos. Peace, have a good one.
See ya, space viewer.